Good morning, all, and welcome to our Catapult SME Excellence series. It's the Maritime Funding Masterclass. We're just waiting for a few more individuals to join, so we'll kick off at 10:03. Please feel free to go grab a coffee, a cold drink, a notepad if needed, and we will kick off at 10:03. Thank you. Okay, short and sweet break. Thank you. Welcome back. As mentioned, welcome to our SME Excellence series. This is a Catapult series in partnership with Aiming. Today we'll be focusing on the Maritime Funding Masterclass. Please do be very interactive in this process. We have the Q&A panel open for any response back, any feedback. If there are particular questions, niche questions, please do flood the chat and I will manage that on my side. There isn't any breaks linked with this particular masterclass, so please do focus in as much as you can. There will be a recording available post this masterclass, so please do keep a lookout for that in the background. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our presenters from Aiming, and yeah, let's feel free to be interactive and let's kick off. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jade. So we'll just do a quick round of introductions, but I'm Natalie. Really nice to meet everyone. So I sit in the partnerships team here at Aiming, and my background's in grant funding. So I have about 5 years experience helping companies find and apply for government funding, both in the UK and EU, and then also helping them develop strategies to be best placed to access innovation funding. So in the partnerships team at Aiming, the way we work is we work closely with funds, so a lot within VC and private equity as well, to develop ongoing relationships and act as their advisor when it comes to innovation funding. And we also work closely with organizations, so a lot within the catapults, accelerator programs, trade associations, hence why we're here today, and our relationship with Connect Places Catapult. So yeah, really excited to be here and help deliver this session. Then I'll pass it to Alvaro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alvaro. I recently joined Aiming as I'm going to be leading the grants team to deliver value for our clients in the direct funding space, meaning that we're going to be supporting clients in accessing mostly in UK funding, which is a very interesting pot of money. Is quite competitive in many occasions, but it's a little bit of an art. And I've been working in the sector for around 10 to 12 years in grant funding in all the side of the coin. I've been in the startup world for the last 4 years. I've been in consultancy firms like Aiming as well, and also Innovate UK, meaning that I think I have a good view on what government is looking to fund, how to position a proposal, how to collaborate, how to generate value, and how to demonstrate in a document exercise how the project can bring additional value beyond what other competitors might be trying to achieve with the project. So that's me. Very excited to be here today.
Great. So for the agenda today, just give a brief background on ourselves, go into the funding landscape in a bit more detail, with then a focus on the upcoming Clean Maritime demonstration competition, and then some practical tips on grant writing, and then we'll close it off with a case study. But before I hand it over, I just wanted to go into detail about Aiming, just so you have a better idea about who we are and what we do. So we're an innovation funding consultancy, 14 offices around the world. Headquarters are in France, but we're part of the UK office. And we support clients with their innovation funding journey, primarily through grant funding, R&D tax credits, and then patent box as well. Sector agnostic, but we work closely with businesses that are heavily doing R&D, and it's from VC-backed companies all the way to large multinationals. So I'll hand it over to Alvaro to go into detail about the maritime sector and then some grant writing tips. But we also wanted to offer complimentary one-to-ones for everyone who's attended here today, but we can go into more detail on that in the end.
Very good. So let's go for it. Let's start a bit more at the top. So Innova UK funding as a whole. This slide is a little bit just to give you a hint on things are changing. Things are changing quite fast for the last year and so. There's been a new CEO for Innova UK, changes in government, but in general, the pots of money have not changed massively. So there's a very strong budget of money for Innova UK to deliver innovation. In general, Innova UK is trying to support to de-risk further investment from the private sector. So the idea is that even if it's a feasibility study or if we're talking to a more TRL6 to TRL8 project, the idea of Innova UK is like, let's support them where there's more risk. So the private sector can pick that from there and convert the organization in a commercial organization. And we're going to be talking about this, but Innova UK, one of the things that have been transitioned for the last few years is becoming from a deep tech, very risky technology sort of funding body to a commercialization of innovation sort of body. Where they really want is that you, at the end of the project and at the end of the journey of the company, you're going to be raising capital, you're going to be commercializing the technology that you're developing with public money. So always keep in mind when writing a grant, when approaching a grant, that commercialization is a key element and collaboration is something that they look forward in order to really strengthen the case for value for money. But we're going to talk more in detail. This slide only changes, so rely on an organization like us, even if we're not working together, talk to us, ask questions. We are in contact with Innova UK, and we try to get all the information we can to provide to our clients. So always happy to give you a hand to get more insight or more information. Now, let's go a little bit more for the maritime sector and what these competitions are looking to achieve. Today, we're going to be focusing in the Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition. In this case, it's the call for project number 7. But pay attention to the other one, to the Zero Emission Vessels and Infrastructure call for projects, as you can see in the upside down in the slide. So there's another competition also in this space that can be of interest if maybe the fit of the CMDC is not exactly what you're looking for. But again, as you have the opportunity to have one-to-one with us, we can explore and see if any of the two could be of interest. In this Clean Maritime call, they are differentiating the call in 3 strands, from feasibility study to deployed trials. We're going to explain more in detail, but in general, what they're trying to solve here is the maritime sector is a hard-to-abate sector. It remains quite immature. It's not a very mature sort of technologies in the sector is difficult to uptake. Vessels are for maybe 25 years in the sea, and then it takes a while for any innovation to really have impact, meaning that with this budget, what they're trying to do is to provide funding early in the pipeline, so in the future, the net zero goals can be achieved in the duration of the lifespan of a ship, in this case, in a vessel or in infrastructure in the competition in the maritime sector. The idea is that they want to position the UK as a global leading country in the innovation in the maritime sector. But in this strand specifically, they're looking for decarbonization activities. Okay, they're looking to, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail later, but they're looking for real that how the project is going to support the decarbonization of the sector, whether it's fuel, whether it's any other element on the infrastructure, it could be new approaches to anything, but always very related to how that's going to support the decarbonization of the sector and how that's going to be accounted in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, for instance. In terms of impact, there's going to be a number of elements that we're going to have to take into account in this, but one very interesting one, and we're going to be talking more in detail, on the deployment strand that you can see in the right side in the CMDC element. They actually want that there is a on-site real operational trial for at least 6 weeks, which is very interesting. It's not that common in this sort of competition that they ask specifically for a time frame where the innovation is applied in real conditions. So it's something that we need to really take into account. Budgets are large, and we're going to see in a little bit how large they are from feasibility to deploy trials. So clearly here, they're looking for collaborative projects, and they're looking for collaborative projects with end users, organizations that really are going to be able to bring that innovation to market, supporting you in testing, in pre-deploying the solution, and executing the activities of the grant funding activity. But collaborating with end users is going to be essential. So by today, you should already have identified who would be a good candidate. Maybe you're already in conversations. So we, in the one-to-one, we're going to be able to give you also feedback on how those potential partners can play a role in having the strongest proposal possible. Any questions so far? If you have anything to write in any question, Jade, I don't know if I can see the questions, but if nothing came to questions, no problem.
No questions so far. I'll keep monitoring.
Good, very good. Okay, so let's go down another layer. As mentioned before, we're going to have 3 strands. Okay, it goes from feasibility study to deployment trials. As you can see, deadline 15th of July. So while there is time, as you can see, projects are large, meaning that we're going to have to, or you're going to have to start working a proposal quite soon. And mostly, the most essential part is the element of collaboration. Getting to a collaboration agreement with end users and in sectors like that. Imagine, for example, if we take the example of the deployment trials, as you can see, there's a budget in grant funding of up to 10.5 million, meaning that project total cost could be between 3 million and 15 million, which is a very substantial project, meaning that, of course, the collaboration agreement, the discussion with end users is going to take time. The planification of the project for more than 2 years, as you can see in the second column, is going to be heavy. And this is an element where we, as experts in this space, we can help in setting up collaboration agreements, in protecting your IP, in how the delivery of a proposal can be done in a time frame. So this is where organizations like us make a lot of sense in this sort of like very large, complex projects. Now, let's go a little bit more in detail on the feasibility study. For starters, here the project can be between 100,000 pounds and £1 million. So 700,000 pounds, the figure that we put there is for a 70% intervention rate to the maximum of 1 million pounds of project cost. So in grant funding, the maximum that you're going to be able to obtain is 700,000 pounds, which again, quite substantial for a feasibility study. And you can see in the scope, we're very early stage. We're talking about desk-based technical and economic studies for early stage concepts that need a credible pathway to later demonstration. And this is very interesting. If you have the opportunity, it would be good that you also take a look at the recording that normally in the UK do about the competition, because something that they really want in any of the strands is that after the project, you show how you're going to be able to demonstrate this in a real case scenario. Okay, as you can see, both feasibility study and pre-deployment trials, during the proposal, we're going to have to develop how that's going to be deployed after the project. So they really want solutions that are going to be applied to the real conditions right away. They're not looking for very early stage, something that maybe or not might be demonstrated later in time. So very, very focused on really bringing this to real life very soon. On the pre-deployment trials, here we're talking a value between 750,000 pounds and 6 million, so quite large for up to 12 months. So it should be quite heavy in terms of how you're going to be able to deliver a large project in that amount of time. In this case, they're not asking yet for that 6-week trial in real world conditions that I mentioned before. But here, what we're doing is testing. We're starting to be more operationally. So we are a bit up in the TRL, but we are still not testing in real conditions. Okay, we are gonna still be doing more maybe lab testing. We're gonna be doing more control condition testing, but it's not gonna be yet real world conditions testing for us. Gonna be the deployment trials. And finally, deployment trials, you can see very, very large projects, 3 million to 15 million pounds, talking over 2 years, 2 years and 9 months. And this very, very interesting, the 6-week trial, real world conditions. How you set up that, how you discuss with end users, that how an operational level that's going to be executed, that's going to be a key element on being able to be successful in a project like this. Total available budget for this call is 120 million. So the truth is that it's going to be a good budget for a number of projects, and we expect that success rate was going to be tight, like always, very competitive. If you have the right end users, if you have the right business case, there's a good chance. It's very niche as well, but very, very focused, and we're going to see that a little bit also in the next slide, really focusing on the decarbonization and how you're going to measure that, how that's going to have an impact over the next few years, and how they're going to have a commercialization pathway in front. Questions? I'm talking a lot. So nobody? Any question? Yep, that's fine. I must be very, very clear. That's all right. Next one. Now, so we have talked already about the 3 strands. So different TRLs, different stages of development of the technology. And now let's talk a little bit about what are the themes that they are looking for. In general, you can see in the priority themes, they're discussing, they really want to receive projects regarding fishing and inland waterways vessels. So vessels, in this case, for vessels, they categorize any vessel that is under the Merchant Shipping Act 1995. In terms of, for example, the flag, it should be a UK flag if it's a new vessel, but if it's maybe a retrofitting exercise in an existing vessel, it is open to maybe vessel that doesn't have a UK flag. But again, those details are a bit niche, so we can discuss in the one-to-one and explore them. Another priority theme, the near zero greenhouse gas emission fuel systems, which include anything related to maybe hydrogen, even electric elements like that. So that could be another element that works. Retrofitting clean maritime technology to existing vessels, okay? And smart shipping combined with vessel and infrastructure things. Now, important in this last one, the smart shipping and combined, we could be thinking about software-based elements for shipping and infrastructure, and could be a very good one, but it's important that it's heavily linked to how that's going to help the maritime sector to decarbonize, how they're going to help account for it, how they're going to have the impact that this call for project is looking. During the conversation with the program leads, they mentioned that while priority themes, of course, are priority, of course, there are other things that are in scope because they know that there's a number of technologies, a number of new solutions that might not fit exactly in the priority themes. So they have a large list of potential other things that are in scope. Okay. Anyways, you have the list here. We're talking about vessel technologies, a bit open, from energy storage to carbon capture on board, which is very, very interesting. In the infrastructure technologies, you have from passengers infrastructure to renewable energy. Our take on this is, once you have an interesting project in mind, you think it could be a good fit, have that element on the greenhouse gas emission, please talk to us. Let's discuss the theme. Let's see that it's the right fit, and then we also discuss with Innova UK. We are here to support, but at the end of the day, we always rely on Innova UK, fresh information in order to understand that the scope of the competition, the scope of the theme is what they're actually looking for if this is a big borderline. So we're there to help and understand more, but we always work hand on hand with Innova UK. And again, across all of them, the goal is to demonstrate how the project will support a significant reduction in well-to-wake greenhouse gas emission from the maritime sector. Okay, well-to-wake as a concept is the total carbon footprint of a ship fuel from start to finish. It goes from when the fuel is pulled out of the ground to the moment when it's burned by the ship at sea. So they really want to understand all that life cycle assessment on the greenhouse emission impact of the project. No questions so far? Great. This is going very well. Now, the competition is something quite objective, and questions might come and we can solve it in the one-to-one, we can discuss with Innova UK, but at the end of the day, probably something that might have a lot more value also for you is like, okay, so I have a potential project, I have a potential end user, I believe it could be competitive, but how I make that first assessment on myself that this could be competitive. So for the last 12 years working in this space, I have developed what I have seen that is what Innova UK specifically, but in general grant funding, what they're looking for in any application. Then there's a million of details that count, but in the end, these 5 elements is where you really need to be thinking very hard on, for example, at the core of everything, of course, is innovation. And when we talk about innovation, is type of innovation. Is disruptive, is just incremental, is an innovation that's going to have a long-lasting impact across the sector when I'm applying it, is an innovation that maybe while has a great impact in this sector, it could have another wider impact in other elements. So innovation as is innovative enough, is making that the state of the art become obsolete because we are going beyond that state of the art, and that's something that is critical. So innovation at the core, for sure, but if the innovation doesn't have, let's go to the top, a very strong commercialization potential, Innova UK is most likely not the right route for you. There might be other grant funding opportunities, maybe philanthropic money, maybe any other, that Innova UK want things that are gonna come to market. They want to understand how you are gonna progress your both TRL at innovation level, but also your CRL, so commercialization readiness level. They want to understand the market. Normally, when you make a proposal, you're going to get 3 assessors, and some of them are going to be expert in your field and going to understand perfectly that innovation is so disruptive that it's going to be a great market. But in many occasions, you're going to find someone that have some understanding of the technology, but they're very more in the business side of things. And you're going to have to convince both of them in the innovation, but also in the commercialization. But on the commercialization, you're going to be across all of them. Do you really understand your competitors? Do you understand the market? Do you understand how you're going to position it? Are you going to what's your revenue stream? Are you going to license? Are you going to sell it one-off? Is a piece of equipment? How that compare with other competitors? And how that's going to make a business? Mostly, always think who is bringing here the money is taxpayers. I know UK represent taxpayers, and they want value for money. If the project has a risk of not succeeding commercially, means that not going to hire more people, the company not going to grow, not going to pay more taxes, and not going to create value for the country. So always think in the commercialization potential of that, and we help with that quite a lot in the market research. It's very important that we understand what we're doing compared to anyone else. More things, impact. When we talk about impact, we really referring not only to your organization, and it's great that you develop an innovation that is great, that you get intellectual property, you get a patent, and you get investment. But if that impact is, let's say, is for a very, very small niche part of the population that doesn't really have a massive, health-related element, for example, or doesn't have any other element that really build a stronger case on the impact, your case is going to be weaker. So always when thinking your innovation, in your commercialization potential of your solution, think of, okay, so this is going to impact my sector. It's going to impact numerically in this element, and that element, but additionally, it's going to support the government in doing this, it's going to support society in doing that, and support a number of layers of beneficiaries for that same pot of money. Then the assessor, what we say is, oh, well, for this same £100,000, now I can see that 3 different projects have different impact. And I believe that this one, because explained to me that there are 3-4 layers of beneficiaries of this same pot of money, I believe this impact is more valuable than others. And that's how any assessor will say, okay, I'm going to score this higher, and I believe this could have a stronger potential to to have a return on investment for taxpayers. Then intellectual property. And intellectual property is important because, first of all, shows innovation. In general, the most relevant one would be patents, but also when you talk about trade secrets, when you talk about any other element of intellectual property that, one, protect your technology from competitors, very good, but also give you the opportunity to, in the future, license the technology. Intellectual property means also that investors are going to be more comfortable with the innovation side of things. Intellectual property has a direct impact in the valuation of your company if you're a startup. So intellectual property is key. Forms of IP are different, but in general, we're talking about patent, trade secrets, and elements that really have that sort of one, protection, but second, commercialization potential for the technology and the company. And in this case especially, but in general, Innova UK want to understand how, first of all, your team has the capacities, the experience, the knowledge to deliver the project as you explained the project, how your team has the potential also to exploit the result of the project, very interesting, but also who else is in the project that gonna have, for example, have a positive impact in the organization. Maybe that part of the consortium is going to have the opportunity to exploit that commercially in the future. Maybe it's going to be an end user that's going to help you to deploy the technology at a scale. So team and consortium, when applying for funding, is very, very relevant. And we're talking even subcontractors. Sometimes the call for prayer is for solo applicants, but you have a very strong letter of support from one of the end users. Maybe you have a very strong subcontractor in the manufacturing side. Element that gonna, first of all, there's more money, there's the same pot of money for more organizations across the supply chain, for example, but also there are companies that are enablers of commercialization, of impact, of testing, of knowledge, for example. Collaborating with universities, research organizations is very, very important because the government feels that it's providing money for more key players, let's say, of the whole innovation ecosystem. So always think on your project, not doing in a niche solo exercise, but you're doing in a collaborative, big impact, part of the whole effort of the country, sort of element for the benefit of. Okay. Good.
Just a question has come through for the innovation piece, Alvaro. In terms of what would be best practice for showing evidence of industry demand or adoption?
So for industry demand or adoption of the technology, so in general, you're gonna be showing, for example, letter of intent of any potential end user, any interaction that you have with end users, so someone that's gonna pick it up is very, very useful. That normally one of the strongest elements. If you can involve them in the project, that end user, that collaborator, that is key for the potential future of the technology. If you can involve a subcontractor just to do a little test, they could come also even not receiving any funding, and sometimes corporate, they're not very interested in matching the money. They really want to just participate and be able to see the progress of the project. So making them part of the project in any shape or form is the best way to show it.
Perfect, thank you.
No worries. So we're gonna probably gonna share this slide. Okay. So you're gonna have a bit more some of the key questions, and we can go very quick over that. I'm not gonna read them, but just some key elements that can help you to understand why those elements are important. Let's start from the right and on the impact. Okay. Again, the wider impact for the consortium, for the benefit. What type of benefit is a health-related benefit? How that has an impact, for example, a very good element here when we're talking about the greenhouse gas, the decarbonization of the sector. One sentence that you can put in an application is like, well, in the UK, NHS costs for treatment of pollution, in this case that we're trying to tackle, is X amount of millions per year, impacting X amount of patients per year. That element is something that there's something beyond your solution that's going to have a good one. And how you're going to quantify the impact, even more in competition like this, where the greenhouse gas quantification is important, the life cycle assessment, this is important. And then economically, how the UK and taxpayers are going to benefit from your company succeeding in exploiting this. We go to the team and consortium, it's the same thing. We're talking about how strong the consortium is. That's very important because you can have an end user that's a very small player in a very similar situation than you, maybe a startup with 50 people. It could be a great end user in the next 10 years for sure, but is that gonna guarantee maybe that the uptake of the market is gonna be strong? Maybe you work with a corporate, very well established corporate, that you already have established relationships, that's gonna make the proposal much stronger. And again, how that consortium, how that subcontractor, how that's gonna help the lead in delivering everything that is not only the project, and even more in this competition, where they're gonna be a demonstration after the different phases of the project, how the involvement of that consortium, contractors, and users, how that's going to help the organization to progress beyond the duration of the project, beyond the execution of the project per se. So always think when, and we help you really in shaping this narrative, how you're going to bring this later to market. In the intellectual property, freedom to operate is very important, okay? Understanding really what is out there. Sometimes when you can identify maybe a patent that is related to your solution, if you already have filed a patent, if you already have a patent approved, if you're already at PCT stage, meaning international stage, you are filing your patent not only in the UK, but also in the US because, and that goes back to the commercialization potential, I'm going to register my patent in the US because I have an end user there, because really the target market there is very, very strong. We believe that we can have a great case there. And even we have an investor that have a letter of intent for us that if we were to develop this technology and take it from TRL 5, TRL 8, they will be contributing to the next phase of growth of the company. Those elements are important for you. In the conversation potential, I think I mentioned most of these things before, but yeah, how your solution is better to a competitor, how you understand the market, how you're gonna price it, even if it's very early stage in many occasions, like what is the revenue model? And that is something that happens a lot. I come more from the commercialization side of innovation, that founders sometimes really struggle. Normally, one thing that I really recommend to founders and organizations working in innovative solutions, if they don't have that much of the commercialization side in the team, grant funding is a great exercise to have to answer the right questions that tomorrow an investor will come to ask you the same questions. So your TAM, your SAM, your SOM, your market research properly done, how you're going to exploit it. So those questions, whether you win or not the grant, which pre-money is absolutely great, and collaborating, that's amazing. But sometimes, out of a very strong proposal, even if funded or is not funded, you answer questions that are very important, and they're going to help the business case and how you're going to be approaching later clients, test users, end users, and investors in the future. So very, very important. In terms of the innovation, I think we covered it before. But again, while innovation is core, and without innovation, you don't have a chance of winning 100%. There is multiple layers of commercialization, impact, and element that's gonna make the innovation worth something. Okay.
Great. So we just wanted to go over a case study that we were successful in last year for the CMDC6 competition. So we applied for a feasibility study, and this was for a client that is quite large in the construction sector. And one of their focus areas is dredging sand and gravel from the seabed to develop aggregates, and then they are used in construction materials. So this is a very carbon intensive process, and the business wanted to identify low carbon alternative fuels for flexible vessels and explore what the most efficient structural design and propulsion systems would be. So this is where a feasibility study would be perfect. And we supported them through the end-to-end application process. And we also helped them secure subcontractors. So this played a really big role in then securing a strong project team. And the team was made up by businesses who are leaders in dredging. We had experts in LCA analysis, maritime field analysis, naval architects, and IP lawyers. So this really plays into what we just spoke about. So making sure you have that strong project team, bringing in subcontractors, will make a big difference within the application. The project also had very strong impact, so the outcome would have really big CO2 reductions, and this aligned with government strategies in the maritime sector. So if you're able to link the innovation to different upcoming regulations and strategies, that can also play a really big role. And there's a very strong commercialization case. So because of these new sustainable aggregates, the company would then secure new construction contracts. So again, we were able to show what the year 1 to 5 revenue would be throughout the application and identify the market. And again, because of the project team, we had IP lawyers subcontracted on the project. So this is a really great case study to look at when taking a closer look at the key points that we just discussed. So making sure there's strong innovation, a strong team, impact, commercialization, and IP. Are there any questions so far?
No questions I can see at this point.
That's fine. Perfect. Takeaways.
Very good. So on the takeaways, and even more in this case, okay, really identify the problem. In this case, the competition really very clear what they're trying to do. So many occasions you can find in the UK maybe an open competition where you really have to define the problem very well. But in this case, the demand from the sector, the slow uptake of new solutions in the sector, the decarbonization being a very costly, but a very really hard to abate sector, that demand is quite clear in the competition. Now, how do you translate that into a proposal? Okay, a proposal that really feels like it's going to have a wider impact in the beyond only what you're trying to do or your company. Pitch a business in the making, and again, what is the journey? Make the assessors. I always imagine the assessor being a gentleman, a lady drinking a tea, 5 p.m. on a Friday. Don't torture that poor person. Try to really appeal to that person reading something that is interesting, that is exciting, that's gonna grow, that's gonna make waves in the market. So always think that you're talking to someone and you're trying to convince them of giving you money, but think that also don't give them very hard time reading something that is technically very heavy, and that's fine. Maybe they will leave that for a different moment of their day, but give them the journey. Give them like, if we are able to do this with this project, we're gonna be able to do all these great things, and that return of investment for the government is gonna be absolutely amazing. Give them that journey, and they're gonna buy most of the technology. In general, the technology, whoever applies, whoever has IP, already is very strong in the innovation. So why some organizations win many grants and some of them struggle winning grants? Sometimes it's the translation of that innovation into a compelling business case that take all of us and to all the assessors in the journey. And very important, that's something that we're very good at as well, is help Innovate UK help you. Give Innovate UK what they're trying to achieve as well. If in this case, in the competition, they're really trying to decarbonize the sector, and they have their own metrics, and they have already net zero target in 2030, appeal to that. It's like, my project, if successful, gonna help you achieve your goals, the net zero goals, the program goals, and that's what we're trying to do with this project. So you always trying to appeal at both the funding body, but also to the people that are actually reading the proposal.
Well, that was everything for today. So as mentioned, we're going to offer one-to-one funding sessions for anyone who attended today. So we can further discuss any eligibility and scope points into that maritime competition, or we're happy to discuss any further grant competitions or any other questions with innovation funding. So I'll share these slides with Jade, who can circulate them, as well as our contact information. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. But yeah, are there any other questions before we wrap up the session?
Yes, I just want to thank you for that presentation, very detailed. Yep, so just as mentioned, now is the Q&A time. So if you have any challenges or blockers, please do flood the chat. We have the professionals here, so let's take the opportunity. Could see one new post come out, and this is from Martin. Given the large range in project cost of a deployment project, is there a sweet spot or method of determining an attractive budget range?
Very, very good question. So, this is a question that all UK all funding ecosystem always have in mind. It's like, if we ask for the top of the budget, do we have a less of a chance to win the grant? It's a great question. My experience the last 12 years, I have always tend to ask for the maximum budget and have not been a handicap. Now, if it's well justified, if the value for money is justified, and that's the important thing. If you say that out of 50 million, you need the 50 million, now you're going to have to justify very well. That's it. You're going to have to be very strong value for money. You're going to have to be very strong about impact. It's a correlation of factors. So there's a spot. You can always make a math exercise and say, okay, if for this competition there is X amount of money, divide by X amount of projects, there's no rule. And when we request freedom of information to get more information on who has been funded for how much money, the truth is that there has not been any learning from that exercise. It's good projects with the strongest consortium, with the best impact and potential to commercialization that win. Period. So no, sadly there is no, but we always, when discussing with you a proposal, we try to help you to have a strong case for value for money. So if we believe that you maybe are overreaching because the value is too high, or maybe it's too low, sometimes happens that we ask for too little for a project that is very ambitious, it's just not credible. So we need to be right in that element where delivery, impact, and money aligns, and the story, the assessor is able to say, yeah, this budget is in line with what they're trying to achieve, and what they're trying to achieve is so excellent that it's worth giving them all this money. It's a long answer to say that, sorry, there is no sweet spot, but we can help you if you have any doubt of how to position the money question, okay?
Perfect. And we have another. If a project spans multiple stages, how should it be framed?
Very good. It's a very, very good question as well. So really depend on if it span different, for example, if it's expanding from feasibility to deployment, it's just physically the time that they give you, I think it's 12 months or 2 years, you're not going to be able to go that fast. So it's just not critical. That's why they divide in 3 strands. We can have a conversation, happy to have it with you, see where you are. And for example, in the pre-deployment, the TRL is quite open, I would say, because there's not yet that deployment on site. So I think here the key element is, are you going to demonstrate on site for 6 weeks or not? If you're not, you're going to be in the pre-deployment trial if you are testing. And if you're a very early stage feasibility, you're going to be in the feasibility, in the very in the first strand. Okay. So I believe in this case it's going to be quite easy to do it, but happy to have a conversation with you, help you to define how to put in the right strand, so it's competitive in that strand for a winning proposal.
Perfect. We have another that's come through. How much weighting is assigned to priority theme projects versus non-priority, but they're still both in the scope?
Yeah. So when they say priority themes, it's because when they do a portfolio approach, that is a very common language in the UK, it means that they get 100 projects, they have over 84, let's say 50 of them, just to put a number, then they start looking at other elements, and they start looking at, okay, which one belong to the priority themes? Then they put that in the bucket and say, okay, so clearly these ones have tick all the boxes. This is priority, and we're gonna fund all of these ones. Then for the remaining pot, let's see what else we have in the other one. They're gonna go by scoring. Sometimes they maybe go by location in the country, because they don't want all the money always to go to the same region, to the same participant, to the same ecosystems. So there is a specific way. There is no number I can give you, but ideally, if you are in the priority theme, you're gonna have more chances than if you're not. As simple as that. Now, if you're not in priority theme, but then your impact is very strong, your end users are very strong, etc., 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 you're gonna have more chances of. I know that I'm repeating myself a lot, but just trying to keep giving you the idea that it's not only about one element of the other, it's about the whole thing together.
Thank you. We got another one that's come through from Ben. Is there any key area of innovation applications, not limited to the marine space, where you think applicants always trip up on? So, for example, not articulating innovation strong enough, a wrong team, or poor program planning?
Yeah. Okay. By default, it's not a problem of the organization writing the grant. It's just the nature of the organization. Sometimes the organization, while it could be very innovative, maybe it's too small for the competition, maybe it's less credible that they're gonna be able to exploit it. So in many cases, organizations fail at assessing themselves against the competition. They believe they can win it because they are innovative enough and they have big ideas and maybe have been backed by funding last year, and they're very confident. But sometimes just the call for project is not right for them. So team is one. Innovation in general, it's true that many organizations go a bit too deep in the technology side. They go too complex, they go too in-depth, just trying to show the knowledge, trying to show that. And sometimes they get many assessors lost. They just misunderstand what the innovation is. Maybe they get lost in the whole narrative. So I would say that innovation is another element that organization cannot fail. And finally, I think in explaining in the market research, in elements of commercialization and IP is it's just not well developed. It's not easy to follow. The references that the organization use are not really good. So yeah, on understanding the market and the commercialization side, mostly on the numbers, organization fail a lot on providing a clear picture of what the potential is. So I think those are the elements. What do you think?
I think that summarized it quite well. Yeah. I'd also add in like the project plan. So in developing the Gantt chart that goes with the application, just making sure you've assigned appropriate time to each task and really thought that through, as well as the point on the team. So do you have the right support who's going to carry that work package, for example, and not relying too heavily on some project team members rather than others. So yeah, I'd add that in as well.
That is a good one. Over-reliance on subcontractors is something that sometimes many assessors are like, well, if you don't have that knowledge or that capability, what happens if the relationship with the subcontractor breaks? What if that company disappears? Then your risk is too high. So yeah, it's true.
Thank you very much. I think that's it for questions. So I just want to thank you, Natalie and Alvaro, once again for today's presentation. Very informative. And I guess what I do want to just push across is that there is an offer for one-to-one grant funding sessions with Aiming at the moment, which is very valuable. So if you didn't get an opportunity to ask a question today, or your question might be very niche and you need a lot more one-to-one support, please do get in touch when we send around the post email, and it will have all their details on it as well to make contact. But once again, thank you for joining today. Please do keep a lookout, because we are going to be doing a lot more interesting future masterclasses just like this one today with Aiming. So it's going to grow as we go forward. So please do keep a look on our website, on our newsletter page. And once again, thank you for joining.
Right, thank you so much.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye. Okay.
Bye-bye.